Hi, mathematicians. It's Mrs. Post, and it's April 23rd. Today, we're going to continue working on solving radicals. Yesterday, you guys did a Nearpod assignment, and if you had any problems writing on the Nearpod, what I wanted you guys to do, if that happens, is, of course, let me know. And another thing I would do is just make sure you guys are doing all your work in your notebook, and then you guys could have just written the answers on the board, like what I did in the video, how I just kind of wrote down the answer like x equals 10. So you didn't have to show every single step, and it's really hard to do on a laptop or a PC. If you have a tablet or a phone, it's a lot faster. You guys can just like write on your device, and it's pretty quick. But also some of the like online inks are really, really wide, really thick, and you have a lot of steps. So I understand that could be challenging. Just really wanted to see you guys trying it and seeing if you could get used to the format of it. I have some really cool projects we're going to do in Nearpod coming up, so I wanted you guys to get used to using it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over the hydroplaning exit ticket that you guys worked on in Nearpod. We are going to add to the solving radical equations, and you guys have just a regular assignment today, so just kind of back to basics. But I want to go ahead and show you the hydroplaning assignment real quick, so I know you guys had some questions on it. So this is in here. All of the documents are in your assignment tab. They're just all Word documents. So if you need PDF files, just let me know. I have them in PDF as well. Whatever's easier for you. And if you guys would give me that feedback, I would greatly appreciate it, because I was told to put these in as Word because Microsoft Teams is a Microsoft company. Word is Microsoft, so it's supposed to be compatible with Teams. So it should be fine no matter what device you have. You can open in Word always. But if you're having problems, I have PDFs. Okay? I think a lot of you like PDFs. I do. But I'm getting better with Word. So anyway, so here's the problem that you guys are working on with the driving on water, the hydroplaning. This is a true story. It does happen, right? Especially in Florida with all the rain. You got to check those tires, and I hope you guys watched that video yesterday, making sure that you have, nice, good treads on your tires. So, okay, so here's the situation. My cats are racing. Mike is driving a Toyota Camry. He's inflated his tires to the dealer recommended level of 32 psi. At what speed will he start hydroplaning? Right, so this is question number 1. So we have the 32 psi. And the cool thing about it is that this actually gives you the formula right here. This is your formula. V equals 10.35 times the square root of P gives you the formula. So you're just plugging in. You're plugging and chugging, you're substituting. So you have 32 psi, and it says what speed. So we're trying to figure out the V. So you plug in that 32 into P, and you just calculate the square root of 32 times 10.35, and it should give you 58.5. So it's saying at about 58 miles per hour, his car will start hydroplaning. Interesting, right? So it's kind of neat to calculate that. If you know that, you're like, okay, I can't go faster than this. I know it's raining really bad. My tires are really bad. I got to be careful. I can't go this fast. So it's kind of helpful. All right, so let's try it again with the second step. So in this case, it wants to know the tire pressure if he's driving 45 miles per hour. It's kind of interesting. So you can take that 45 miles per hour and you're going to plug it in for V right here. So the V is going to become 45, and then just calculate it backwards. So we're trying to find P now. So based on what we did yesterday, how do you get rid of a radical? Well, if it's a square root, you have to square everything, right? But go ahead and isolate it first. So you guys would divide both sides by 10.35. So you'd have 45 divided by 10.35. And then you guys would have, and the 10.35 would cancel, is equal to the square root of P. How do you get rid of a square root? Well, you square it, right? You square both sides. And you guys could go ahead and do that. You could, this would leave you with P, because that would cancel. So 45 divided by 10.35, and then you square it, and that should leave you with about 18.9. So it said that's what his PSI was, pretty low, 18.9. I know my car, I'm supposed to be around 36 or 37, so 18 is kind of crazy. That's definitely pretty low. I'm not surprised that he was hydroplaning. Anyway, so there you go, a real-world example of how you guys can use radicals. So I really wanted you guys to be aware where does this crazy stuff come from, and these are types of questions you might see in your SAT, so that's why I wanted to make sure that we went over those. So let's go ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on with the rest of our lesson. So we went over the solution from yesterday. Now let's go into our guided notes, and I have these up here. All right, so here we go. So here's our first one. This is kind of what we've been doing, but there's a little issue with this one, so I wanted to So before we go ahead and start solving this, I want you guys to be aware of this is 2 minus the square root of x, and what we're going to have to do, hopefully you guys remember, is that in order to get rid of square roots, you have to square them. You guys are going to square everything. This 2 right here is going to get squared, but remember, I want you guys to be aware of this is subtraction. But how do we rewrite subtraction? We rewrite it as adding a negative, right? We didn't change the value, we just rewrote it a little bit differently. So this is a negative square root of x, and so we have to square this too, right? So now once we do that, all of the square roots cancel. You'll end up with x minus 12 on one side. 2 squared is 4, and then you will have plus, right? I don't want you guys to kind of feel like that's weird. Plus you have negative, so it's negative square root of x, saying you're going to have 2 of those. So I want you guys to be aware that this is like saying it's a negative 1 times a negative 1, which is a positive 1. And what's going on inside? X times x. What's the square root of x times x? X. Okay, so just showing you how to do that the long way. So just remember you are squaring a negative, so it becomes a positive. Okay, so now if you go ahead and try to solve for x, you guys are going to try to get your x's on one side, and look what's going to happen here. You see your x is going to cancel here, and your x is going to cancel here. Your x's are gone. So now you have negative 12 left on one side and 4 left on the other. That is no solution. That is a false statement. Negative 12 cannot equal 4 ever, ever, ever. So because that's a false statement, that's no solution. So be aware, remember, once again, just even with linear equations, if your variables cancel out, that's just no solution. Okay, so be on the lookout for those. So I wanted to go over that one just so you can be aware of those, and also what to do with those little silly negatives on the outside. Just remember, when you multiply a negative times a negative, that's a positive. Okay. All right, so let's look at this example here. This is, I want to say it's the hardest type of problem, but it's really the same thing. It's just the numbers get a little bit larger. I talked about that yesterday. So, all right, so last example for you guys right here. So it's 3 times the 4th root of 2n plus 6 minus 6 is equal to 0. So it says solve for n, right? So remember that means, okay, I want to get n all by myself. So you're like, okay, what's n equal to? Well, bummer, because we have a 4th root and we have 2n plus 6 all underneath a radical multiplied by 3, and we're subtracting 6. We got a bunch of numbers with that n, so we have to follow just regular rules. Remember, if you had something like, I'm going to write an example over here. Let's say you had something like 3n minus 6 equals 0. If it was something like this, what would you do first? Looks really, really similar to what you have on the left, but you have to remember there is a radical there. But the process is still the same. You guys would add 6 on both sides, right? And then you guys would have 3n is equal to 6. And then what would you do? Well, you guys would divide to get rid of that leading coefficient, that coefficient there, and you guys would end up with n is equal to 2, right? So same idea here. So let's go ahead. This is a multiple choice, and I'm going to talk to you guys about a couple strategies here. But let's go ahead and do the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and do that adding and subtracting first. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. I'm leaving those little multiple choices there because I don't feel like messing with them right now. So remember, when you do that, your 6's are going to cancel out over here. So you're going to get 3 times the 4th root of 2n plus 6. So remember, equals 6. So remember that the only difference between this and what you did yesterday was that it's a 4th root, but everything else is the same. Okay, and I'll show you the difference, but so far you're going to do everything else the same. All right, so we added 6 on both sides. We're removing everything so we can isolate our radical. Once again, you're going to multiply, the 3 is being multiplied, so we're going to do the inverse, which is division. I'm sorry, we're dividing here. Inverse operations. Those 3's are going to cancel. So now you're going to get the 4th root of 2n plus 6 equals 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So close to being done. We got to get rid of that 4th root. I'm going to move this down. we got to get rid of that fourth root. So what are we going to do? Just like yesterday and from above, how do you get rid of a square root? Well, you have to square everything, right? So then you'll have 2 of everything. Well, in this case, we need to have 4 of everything so we can simplify it out. I'm going to change colors so you can kind of see. So now we're going to bring everything to the 4th power. Whatever you do to one side, make sure you do to the other side. And look at that. That's going to get rid of that. So we're going to end up with 2n plus 6 equals 2 to the 4th. And that should give you guys what? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. You guys are going to start remembering these as you go, right? So now look at that. It's just a basic linear equation. So you're going to go ahead and subtract 6 on both sides. Leaves you with 2n is equal to 10. Divide both sides by 2. You guys will end up with n is equal to 5 right there. So that is supposedly your solution, right? But don't forget, because you're squaring both sides, you have some issues with negatives, you want to go ahead and check for extraneous roots. And we talked about that yesterday. So make sure you guys are doing that. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's check for extraneous roots. How do you do it? Hopefully you guys remember. Let me go ahead and go back to my pen. Let's check for extraneous roots. Plug and chug, right? You just plug that 5 back into your original. It has to go inside original. So you have your n is equal to 5, and you're going to plug it into your original right here. So that's going to get, I'm going to do it right here to the right. So it's 3 times the 4th root of 2n plus 6 minus 6 is equal to 0. That's our original. So our n, we're saying is 5. So let's try it when n is 5. So it'll be 2 times 5 plus 6 minus 6. See if that's equal to 0. So you have 3 times the 4th root of whatever is inside here. So 2 times 5 is 10 plus 16 minus 6. Is that equal to 0? 3 times the 4th root of 16. Calculate that on your calculator if you're not sure, but what number to the 4th power gives us 16? Well, hopefully you remember from over here it was 2, right? So, because 2 to the 4th was 16. So you might remember that because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. So that's 3 times 2 minus 6. Does that give you 0? 3 times 2 is 6. 6 take away 6 is definitely 0. Look at that. So it works. It's a true solution. So 0 equals 0. That's true. So yes, n is equal to 5 is your final solution. So just check it just to make sure. Okay? That's it. That's all I need you guys to do. So 4th root is really no different than square roots or 3rd roots or 5th roots or whatever. Just make sure you have the button on your calculator. You guys can always use Desmos and calculate it in there too. But anyway, so really no different. Just bring everything to the power that is your index, okay? So I want you guys to work on these today. And real quickly though, is there a shortcut? If this was a multiple choice question, and let's say we've got these right here. Oops. I don't know why it's taken everything. Is there a shortcut? If your choices are A equals -1, B equals 1, C equals 5, and D equals 11, the shortcut is hopefully just to plug those in to your equation like we did over here. So really the shortcut, if you're given options, is to plug them in and see. And you'll have problems like that tomorrow on Friday and also on Monday, where you're given your possibilities, you have to see which ones are true. So you just plug them in. You're doing that anyway whenever you're checking for extraneous roots anyway. So you just plug it in and see which one gives you a true statement. So my question for you was, what is the shortcut? The shortcut is to use substitution or plug and chug, right? When given multiple choices. So strategy, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's go to your assignment for today. Here it is. All right, so I edited it a little bit. Let's see, I just want to make sure. Okay, so I edited your classwork a little bit, or your assignment. I took out the inequalities. I don't really they're great. Inequalities are great. They're important. They're more real world than anything else. But anyway, I took out the inequalities and I took out any of these problems that had an index or a root or an exponent that was a fraction. So I took out, looks like 5, 6, 16, 17, and 18. I want you guys to try as many of these as you can and try to work them out on paper. And then go ahead and if you can take a snapshot of that and add work and turn it in, I would appreciate it. Some of these are square roots. You can see there's a fifth root, cube root, and might be it. Fourth root, fifth root, so it doesn't matter. Rules are the same. Just make sure that you either fourth root both sides or you cube root or you fifth root both sides. And then there's a couple word problems you guys can try, but they're just like the hydroplaning. You're just plugging and chugging. Okay, just using substitution and try it and see what you get. All right, we'll go over these tomorrow. So this is your assignment for today. Work it out on notebook paper and add work and turn in if you can. And I believe that's everything. So if you need me, I'll be here from 10 to 12 and 2 to 4, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.